Mistakes that I've made with FBA. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some mistakes that I've made with my first really large FBA shipment. For those of you who don't know what FBA is, which may be a lot of you, FBA stands for Fulfilled by Amazon. So this is a way, in a nutshell, where you can get your product, ship it to the warehouses themselves at Amazon, and then Amazon lists the item on their site and they fulfill it, and they will take care of the boxing up of the item. They'll take care of the shipping of the item. They'll take care of the customer support. They'll take care of returns, all of that stuff. So your job as an FBAer is simply to source good product that you can make a profit on and send it to them. And the more you can do it, the better. And the more winners you find, the faster you can make money. So I've been, working on that a lot, and I had a very large shipment that I was sending up. So it consisted of 27 different types of items, so 27 different SKUs, and each SKU, some of them had multiple items, multiple quantities. So I made a lot of mistakes while I was doing this shipment, and really I just wasn't prepared for that large of a job. I had done one or two shipments before that were primarily just one or two different items, and it was a lot easier to do it when it was just minimal content. But I had stuff everywhere, so trying to get all this stuff organized and put into boxes was interesting. So I made a bunch of mistakes, and so I just wanted to talk about some of these mistakes because I think a lot of them are really good learning opportunities. I'm a firm believer that the best way to learn how to do something is to just try and do it. And you can watch YouTube videos like this all day long, and you're still just not going to really know all the ins and outs of it until you just do it. So I like to do it first and then worry about it later. So mistakes are going to happen, and mistakes are good because, like I'm doing now, you can kind of revisit those mistakes and learn from them and make sure you don't do them again. So, first mistake I had was I decided I was just going to put everything into this really big box. So I had a large box ready. I started putting items in there. And I started putting packing paper all around and layering everything on top of each other. And I was ready to, send it off and tape up the box. And I had already purchased the shipping and everything for it. And then I realized that I had a bunch of light stuff and fragile stuff mixed in with some items that were pretty bulky and heavy and metallic. So some things made out of steel and some things made out of paper and cardboard and plastic and glass. And so what ended up happening was I had to just unbox it all, and I had to kind of start over from scratch. And I decided to split up the shipment into multiple boxes, and that was probably something I should have done initially. I should have thought about it ahead of time and done that. Mistake number 2. I had an item that I was shipping that was really probably at most maybe $2 profit, more than likely probably $1. And I ended up listing that by itself, and I had to send this item, I had 6 of them, I had to send this item out to 3 different warehouses in 3 different boxes. So one box had 3 items in it, one box had 1, and one box had 2. And the combined shipping ended up being like $10 or more between all of those boxes. And I'm probably going to make $5 or $6 total in profit from these items. So I don't even know what I was thinking, but, hey, I was trying. So that was mistake number 2. Mistake number 3, and this was actually a mistake that I made in the shipment just prior to this most recent large shipment. I had a shipment that consisted of 3 boxes, and they were small boxes. And so instead of going to the local FedEx store, I just decided to drop them in the drop box over by the gas station down the street. We have a UPS and a FedEx drop box out there. It's very convenient. Problem is, I don't know where they are now. And it's been 2 weeks, and they still haven't been scanned in by FedEx. And so I contacted FedEx, and they basically said, you can't contact us, it has to be Amazon. And when I contacted Amazon, they responded saying, well, we have to wait until the delivery date expires, and then we can open up a case. The problem is there is no delivery date because the item never even really got scanned in. The only thing it shows is when I initially purchased and printed out the labels for the boxes, and that's it. And it's been, like I said, a week or two that these boxes have just been nowhere. I don't know if they're still sitting in those drop boxes. I don't know if someone went in there and stole them out of the boxes. I don't know if the FedEx driver decided to just take them and bring them home and open them up. I don't know what happened to them. All I know is Amazon doesn't have them yet, and it's been 2 weeks, and they should have been there well within this amount of time. So I guess I have to just sit and wait on those again. Again, that's a lot of money that's kind of tied up. But yeah, so that was mistake number 3. Mistake number 4. I decided to list a very expensive item, and I decided to list it in a different way. So with Amazon, you have FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon, but you can alternatively list your item as a merchant fulfilled. And what that means is Amazon will list the item on their site, but pretty much everything else after that you handle. So if an order comes in, you deal with shipping the item to the customer, you deal with customer support, customer returns, all of that stuff. So I decided that, I wanted to use this opportunity to list if I buy it until I actually had a buyer for it. And I know that my supplier, who's right down the street here, has those in stock. And so I could safely list those items and know that I could pick one up in multiple locations around the area if I needed to from my wholesaler. So I listed the item, and it sold within a few days, which was great. And, I think I, on paper, ended up making around $250 profit on that one item. The problem was I underestimated the shipping costs. So the box itself was 40 pounds. And so when I listed it, I didn't really understand how to do the shipping in the first place for a merchant fulfilled item. I added some rules that said, add 50 cents a pound or whatever I said, and $5 per order. So that really, they only ended up paying $38 in shipping when they bought it from me. And the actual end cost with insurance and signatures and all of that, it ended up being around $78. So I lost a pretty substantial amount of money just in the shipping fees that I had to pay out of my pocket. And then the other issue I had with this item is because it was very large and very bulky, I wasn't exactly sure how to ship it. So my first thought was I would put it into a bigger box just to protect it a little bit and send that. It's not that easy actually to find large boxes, and especially large boxes that are inexpensive and that you can fit such a large and heavy item in safely. So I spent about a half hour frankenboxing something, so trying to build my own box out of other boxes that would fit this thing. And I was able to do that, but the box was hideous. It was terrible looking. I used probably a half a roll of tape on it, and it was just not pretty at all. And so I just decided in the end to remove all of the boxing that I did, and I slapped a label on the original box and sent it out. The item actually was shipped to my distributor in its original box. So I know that the manufacturer does it. So I figured, what the heck, I guess I'll do that too. So I burned a lot of time and lost a lot of shipping on that. So that is mistake number 4, not properly estimating the shipping for a large item. Mistake number 5. This isn't really a mistake, but it's something that I already knew I needed to do. So I didn't mess up or anything, but I had always heard people saying they have 2 label printers, and I didn't think it was necessary, and they're fairly expensive. The one I got is $160, and so I can't just spend $160 times 2 when I don't need to. And so, as you know from other videos I've done, I like to deal with, pain as it comes and not try to predict it ahead of time and try to avoid it. So now I've dealt with some pain with label printing, and specifically with Fulfilled by Amazon, the FBA. The way that works is every single item that you add into your shipment has to go through Amazon and their tool, and they'll tell you for some of the items that you need to print a custom barcode label for them. Many items you can use the manufacturer barcode, so there's no other work involved. But probably at least half of the items that I sell, I get a message while I'm building my shipment that says, okay, these items need to be custom labeled. And so that requires a different size label. For me, that's a 2 5/8 by 1 inch label. And then the shipping labels are 4 inch by 6 inch. And so what ends up happening is I have to get my workflow just right to where I can print all of the item labels at once, which is rare, and then all of my shipping labels at once. But in reality, what ends up happening is I print some item labels, and then I have to switch the label paper around and reset my printer and recalibrate it to the new label and print the shipping label, and then put the item label back in and print some more item labels. And it's a real pain in the ass. So really what I need to do is I need to pick up another label printer that I can just have the item labels in one printer and the 4x6 shipping labels in the other, and make it a lot less painful and stressful for me. So that is mistake number 5, not having a second label printer. Mistake number 6. Early on, when I was first experimenting with FBA, I had picked up a bunch of items at an estate sale, and some of these items were some old gun collector magazines and books. And the only research I really did on them was I went out to Amazon and I found out that there was a price for them. They were listed on Amazon, and there was some price attached to it, like $29.95 or $12.95, whatever the price was. And so as soon as I saw that value and realized that it was worth money, I put together one of my very first FBA orders and shipped all of these items up to Amazon. And so the mistake that I made was I didn't actually research it properly using the proper tools to find out that these items actually only sell maybe once in a blue moon or once in a year. There is a tool called a Keepa chart, and it's keepa.com. That's KEEPA.com. And this chart is essentially a historical sales chart for every single item that Amazon has. And so what I should have done is I should have looked back at the history of that item to see how frequently it sells. And for items that only sell once a year, you're much better off just doing those listings merchant fulfilled, because Fulfilled by Amazon does charge you a storage fee for your items, and the longer that they stay in their warehouse, the more costly it becomes for you and the less profit you end up making. So those are called long tail items. And so I sent up a bunch of stuff that probably won't end up selling. And so now I have to either just have Amazon destroy them or pay for the shipping to have them sent back to me. And so I'll probably end up doing that. But yeah, so that was a mistake. number 6, not reading my Keep It chart properly. Mistake number 7. So the way Amazon works is you sell an FBA item. Let's say you sell something for $1,000, and you would expect to receive that $1,000, but you don't. Amazon sits on it, and especially if it's your first payout, which it is for me, they'll actually hold that money for almost a month before they actually deposit it back into your account, into your checking or whatever. So when I went out and bought a bunch of stuff to send up to FBA, I was just assuming that it would be maybe 3 to 7 days max, and I would have the money back in my account, and then I could buy more stuff. But that's not what happened. And so, I went out and spent $1,000 on one item, and I sold it, which is great, but I don't get the money still yet for another 3 weeks. So that was a mistake, not understanding how that payout table works and being a little bit too aggressive at the start with my capital and spending it all. And now I don't really have the capital to invest if I see any good opportunities pop up. I'm going to have to just pass on stuff now that I normally wouldn't pass on because a lot of my money is still tied up in the FBA system. So that was mistake number 7, not realizing how the payouts work. So just, to wrap it up, I know for sure that this FBA thing is working because I have sold a bunch of items already, and it's very cool to have items sell, and you didn't really have to do anything much to sell it. The only work that's involved is boxing these things up and shipping them. And that is work. Don't get me wrong. And especially when you're starting out, it's very stressful and very confusing because there are so many different rules and regulations that you have to tread through with Amazon in order to get your product listed. But, I'm just trying to do this as frequently as I possibly can so that I get that practice in and get these mistakes made and get them done with and learn from them. And I know that over time, this is going to go a lot smoother, and it's going to be really quick for me, and I can focus more on the sourcing of good product than I am right now on the whole shipment process. So so I just wanted to kind of share that information with y'all, and hopefully it's helpful, and we'll talk to you again sometime.